What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, the politics in the sport of boxing raises its ugly head once again, and it reveals some truth. As if you keep in mind, I'm going to take you through a few chain of events that have taken place. But they're pushing undefeated unified 3-belt WBC, WBA, IBF welterweight world champion, superstar boxer who is widely considered by many to be top 2, if not number 1, definitely top 5 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, and Errol "The True Spence" Jr., who has 28 wins, no loss, no draw, 22 big wins by way of knockout. He is 32 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. They're pushing him, that being Errol "The True Spence" Jr., to fight former unified WBC, WBA welterweight world champion, superstar boxer Keith one-time Thurman, who is 30 wins, 1 loss, no draw, 22 wins by way of knockout, 33 years of age, 5'8" with a 69-inch arm reach. They're pushing Errol Spence to this fight. The PBC, Premier Boxing Champion, founder and advisor Al Heyman, and the PBC have been pushing for this fight for quite some time. If you remember, Errol Spence fought a unification bout. April 16th, Arlington, Texas, AT&T, Dallas Cowboys Stadium, against former WBA welterweight world champion, Cuban star boxer Yordenis Ugas, in which Errol Spence got a 10th round victory over Yordenis Ugas stoppage. He broke his nose, ribs, and orbital bone. Now, after the fight, PBC, they put up a poll, if you guys remember, and they stated, who wants to see Errol Spence versus Keith Thurman next, right? Errol Spence, to which Errol Spence responded, and he says the PBC needs to take the L out of lover, right? Meaning it's over, Lover, right? Take the L out of lover, meaning it's over. It's not going to happen, okay? Errol Spence, he responded to that post, as I stated. But the PBC put up that post as Errol Spence, post-fight, Errol Spence let the world know that I'm coming after, okay, WBO, undefeated, welterweight world champion, former 3-division world champion, undisputed junior welterweight world champion, currently the reigning WBO, World Boxing Organization welterweight world champion, was widely considered by many to be the number 1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in Terence "Bud" Crawford. Terence Crawford is 38 wins, no loss and no draw, 29 big wins by way of knockout. He is 35 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach, okay? Now, keep in mind, Errol Spence, after his fight with Ugas, he says, what's next? And Errol Spence makes it abundantly clear. He says, I want Keith Thurman. I'm coming after his belt, right? Now, I'm paraphrasing. Obviously, Errol Spence used a different word to describe coming after Terence Crawford, right? Terence Crawford, Errol Spence is the biggest fight in boxing, okay? But yet, the PBC put up a post, right, and a poll saying, who wants to see Errol Spence versus Keith Thurman, right? Knowing the world is calling for Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford. But nonetheless, they continue to put up this poll, okay? And then, now we hear the audio leak of Errol Spence talking to someone, and the audio gets leaked, okay? And in this leaked audio, okay? In this leaked audio, right? Errol Spence, he explains that Terence Crawford doesn't know what exactly is going on with the negotiations and does not trust in his lawyer, is what he said. And he wants to talk directly to Al Heyman, to which Al Heyman stated that, you know, Terence Crawford is asking a lot of questions, and asking questions he wouldn't normally even ask Bob Arum, legendary promoter, top-ranked CEO, and former Terence Crawford promoter, right? To which he states, Errol Spence states that he just wants to get the fight signed, sealed, and ready to be delivered because he's ready to get the fans and everybody off his back, and he wants to make the fight, and it's a legacy fight and the biggest payday of his career. Then he follows that up by saying this. Then Al Heyman says that he's pushing for me to fight Keith Thurman. And I told him that's not happening. I ain't fighting Keith Thurman. Now, Errol Spence has made this abundantly clear for quite some time. He continues to let the world know he has no interest in fighting Keith Thurman because when Keith Thurman was the champion, and they both were champions, after he beat Special K Kell Brook, former IBF welterweight world champion, British superstar boxer, in 2017, and Keith Thurman unified March of 2017 against then two-division undefeated world champion Puerto Rican superstar boxer Danny Swift Garcia. Keith Thurman, March of 2017, he unified the belts against Danny Garcia. Errol Spence, he beat Kell Brook to become, the IBF champion. They both were with the PBC. He wanted to have their fight. Errol Spence did, okay? And Keith Thurman gave Errol Spence the runaround. And since he gave Errol Spence the runaround, since then, the fight never came to fruition, okay? And Errol Spence, he vowed to never fight Keith Thurman. Then Keith Thurman, he came back, took a 2-year layoff. He comes back, he fights, Manny Pacquiao and Josito Lopez. He loses the WBA title. And, the rest is history. Errol Spence had no interest in fighting him. Okay. So with that said, Errol Spence let it be known they was on platforms together. They was on many things, right? And they didn't. And Errol Spence called him out, continued to pursue him. And it didn't happen, right? He called him out face to face. And Keith Thurman kept telling the world and Errol Spence, you'll get your opportunity one day, young pup. One day is coming. It's coming, right? And it didn't happen. So from that point, Errol Spence let it be known, I'm never going to fight Keith Thurman, right? Well, they're continuing to push for this fight with Errol Spence and Keith Thurman, okay? Like I said, Errol Spence in his leaked audio, Errol Spence states, that they're asking me to fight Keith Thurman, and I told him that's not going to happen. I'm not fighting Keith Thurman, right? He wants to focus on fighting Terence Crawford, right? But they're pushing for Keith Thurman, not Terence Crawford fight, okay? Now we know undefeated welterweight superstar title contender, okay? Jaron Boots Ennis, who's the IBF mandatory challenger for Errol Spence's IBF title. Jaron Boots Ennis, 29 wins, no loss, and no draw. 27 big wins by way of knockout. He is 25 years of age, 5'10", with a 72-inch arm reach, 74-inch arm reach, excuse me. Jaron Boots Ennis, he petitioned the IBF. Mr. Peoples let them know he wants his opportunity. Then we know undefeated Lithuanian star, welterweight title contender, and Emanis Stanionis, he has vowed 14 wins, no loss, no draw, 9 wins by way of knockout. He is 28 years of age, 5'9", with a 68-inch arm reach. Emanis Stanionis, he has been pushing now for his opportunity. He's the WBA mandatory challenger for Errol Spence, right? And they both petitioned once we realized that Terence Crawford Errol Spence fight is not happening this year. Terence Crawford went in a different direction. December 10th, he's going to face off against David Avanesian, okay? And he's looking to make the Errol Spence fight happen next year. Errol Spence in the leaked audio says that Al Heyman had told him that it's a possibility it could happen in January, but there was a revised contract sent to Terence Crawford that said February. I was told behind the scenes it could be February, March, okay? Well, now, guess what? The other sanction bodies has decided to step to the side. The WBA and the IBF have decided to step to the side and let the World Boxing Council, President Mauricio Suleiman, board of 32 members, who has the #1 mandatory challenger in their ranking system, is you got it, none other than one Keith one-time Thurman. And now the other sanction bodies has decided to step aside and let the WBC be the front runner for the mandatory challenger for Errol Spence's next fight. Now listen to what Mauricio Suleiman had to say.
#1 contender?
No, the WBC's mandatory is next. That has been confirmed.
He said the WBC mandatory is next. Now keep in mind, I want y'all to understand this. Keith Thurman fought Mario Barrios, okay, February 5th of this year, right? There was no talk until that fight. Keith Thurman didn't even know that he was going to be fighting Mario Barrios for a WBC mandatory title eliminator. He didn't even know that until days before his fight with Mario Barrios. He wasn't even aware of that. Mario Barrios was coming off of a knockout loss to a super featherweight, an undefeated 3-division world champion, superstar boxer, Gervonta Tank Davis, who jumped up from 130 against Leo Santa Cruz to fight Mario Barrios for the WBA regular title at 140. He dropped him 3 times and stopped him in the 11th round, got a knockout victory. Mario Barrios then moves up to welterweight from 140, 147. First fight in welterweight division is Keith Thurman, and it's for a title eliminator. And Keith Thurman wasn't even aware this was going to be the case. Now, Amanda Stanionis was the mandatory and was already slated by President Gilberto Mendoza of the WBA, World Boxing Association, that he was going to fight Yordenis Ugas, who was the WBA champion at the time, for that belt. They allowed Yordenis Ugas to pay Amanda Stanionis' step-aside money so he can unify against Errol Spence. So he was already in position. Okay? Remind you, Jerron Boots Ennis was ahead of Keith Thurman in WBC rankings before he fought Mario Barrios. Then they leapfrogged Jerron Ennis with Keith Thurman. Okay? Ennis fights for the IBF. He's the mandatory. And now Mauricio Suleiman suddenly says that the other 2 sanction bodies, WBA and IBF, step aside to allow the WBC to be the front runner and the next up for the mandatory, which makes the Keith Thurman fight next.
Is next. That has been confirmed.
That has been confirmed. That means that they had a meeting amongst them, the 4 major sanction belts, and they decided that the WBC was going to be next in line, which means now Ennis and Amanda Stanionis aren't up next. So if Errol Spence is to stay at the welterweight division, now he's not fighting Terence Crawford. He's going to be forced to fight Keith Thurman, or he's going to be stripped, and the Terence Crawford fight loses luster.
Is next. That has been confirmed.
The WBC is next. So this is putting Errol Spence in a position where he's either going to vacate or fight Keith Thurman.
Isn't Boots Ennis your #1 contender?
No, the WBC's mandatory is next. That has been confirmed. Thurman is a #1 contender, but everything will be seen at the convention.
So there you have it. Errol Spence is going to be either forced to fight Keith Thurman or be stripped of his WBC title next. And this is what the PBC, Premier Boxing Champion, has wanted from the very beginning. This is what Errol Spence did not want. Hence the reason they put up a poll after Errol Spence has been consistently telling the world he wants no parts of fighting Keith Thurman. They're forcing him to fight Keith Thurman. Now it's fight Keith Thurman or be stripped of his WBC title. And we know Errol Spence wants to be undisputed at the welterweight division, which means in order for him to fight Terence Crawford next for undisputed and accomplish what he's setting out to accomplish, hence the reason strap season and the shirt he made of collecting the belt from Sean Porter, Kell Brook, and Yordenis Ugas knocking on the last door with the WBO title and Crawford name on it. That all goes away if he don't fight Keith Thurman, because he'll be stripped of the WBC title. Because they have come together collectively to agree that the WBC should be next, because that's what the PBC wanted. After Errol Spence has told the world he wants no parts of Keith Thurman and no interest, guess what they did? They put up a poll and said, who wants to see this fight next? Errol Spence responds and says the PBC needs to take the L out of Lover. They're still pushing for it. Al Heyman still tells him in his meeting that he has, although he's negotiating with Terence Crawford, that he needs to fight Keith Thurman. He still says no. So what better way to force him into that fight is to inform him he'll be stripped. That's not a coincidence. And that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share your videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.